Good evening once again. It's Monday, it's 8 o'clock, and as usual, we have the Monday review show where we discuss and debate, if you like, incidents from the laws of the game and to do with the laws of the game. Now, there hasn't been much happening this last week as far as that's concerned. We've had international games, not that they are immune in any way from controversy, but we haven't had much. So there are other things that we would like to talk about tonight. And when I say we, I'm joined again, as usual, by Keith Hackett, former Premier League referee, former FIFA referee, former head of the PGMOL, which is the grouping that control referees in the Premier League and the Championship in England. Good evening, Keith. Welcome, and thank you very much for joining me.
Delighted to join you.
Now, a couple of things. There appears to be new changes to the laws or law changes, quite a few of them there. Maybe if you have them to hand, maybe we could go through them. When I say quite a few, there's laws 1, 3, 4, 12, and 14. And laws 1 started the field of play, law 3, the players, law 4, players' equipment, law 12, fouls and misconduct, and law 14 is the penalty kick. Now, let's start with law 1, clarification that the goal line technology indication that a goal has been scored can be communicated via the referee's earpiece/headset. Now, currently it's on the referee's hand. It's on a little kind of a watch he has,
Yes.
And that indicates to him literally in milliseconds whether a goal is scored or not. Why is it necessary then to go into his headset as well?
I think that they're just no doubt have been asked the question, and probably they think, well, if the communication kits are in use, there's no reason why. What I think is interesting is I was involved with both the communication kits and the introduction of goal line technology. So I'm quite clear in detail how that evolved. And what we needed was a communication to the referee that was with clarity and with speed. And that is why we went to the watch, because you don't know the level of volume of the spectators in the ground. There might be a risk of a miscommunication. Sure. You know, the clarity of the watch is that when it buzzes, the referee knows, and it vibrates as well. He knows that's a goal because it does nothing else other than that. And that's what I went for in the development process of the goal line technology.
And it's been very successful because and successful in the sense that players do not complain and do not protest. They accept it.
No, because I think that what you're dealing with is fact. The reality is, and this is how we evolved the product. I stood up at the Premier League conference on one occasion and was asked, given blue sky thinking, what would you like to introduce? And I said goal line technology. And that was the basis of a goal that wasn't awarded. Spurs had a shot on goal at Manchester United. Roy Carroll, the United goalkeeper, dropped the ball a good metre over the line.
Oh, indeed, I remember.
Referee and assistant had no chance of seeing it. So I put forward that. We went through then the process of using Fulham training ground, Motspur Park. We finished up with 7 cameras around each goal, operating at 500 frames per second. And through a software program, we were able to get a very quick and accurate communication to the referee. Now we go on to what they're saying here is that can be communicated by the referee's earpiece or headset. I hope that it will not move away from the watch. And the reason I say this
is that as well as now the earpiece as well as the watch, or
it's like everything. You have a knowledge. Look, when you are playing games in Israel, you're not allowed to use the communication kits.
Oh, I didn't know that. Why is that?
Well, that applied some years ago, and I'm sure it probably still applies. It was about the sensitivity of security, and it was the Israeli government that made those choices, and therefore referees didn't operate with communication kits for games in Israel. So I think that apart, look, I just want. I don't know why they tinker. The system that's in place works extremely well. It's, you know, the odd problem that it's had, I think there was Aston Villa versus Sheffield United, if you remember, when the ball was over the goal line. It was proven to be over the goal line afterwards. In reality, it looks as though they didn't calibrate the system prior to kickoff or even switch it on, because it was around that COVID era. But other than that, look, the communication kits, I'm pretty au fait with that. I introduced that into refereeing. One of the early day problems we had with it was getting encrypted messages. That is the system encrypted so that you didn't get any outside interference, because in those early models that we used, particularly when referees were at Chelsea, they'd get called for a taxi cab from Kensington High Street to Oxford Circus. Not what you want to hear when you're the referee. But we overcame that through encryption. And at that particular time, the referee could encrypt the old system, so he could actually change from match to match if you wish. But I don't think they do that. You know, the other side of it is this. One of the downsides of the communication kit is if after a game it's not cleaned down. By that I mean moisture. You know, the referee throws it into his bag. He's got a fairly wet kit and all those sort of things. That's not conducive to a good operation the following day or the day after if a referee's in a tournament. Other than that, the system works well.
Yeah. I'm interested in the Israeli situation. Does that apply to their league matches and in all matches, international matches as well?
Well, I don't know. Errol, it may have changed, but I can assure you that in the early 90s, that was the case.
Oh, wow.
I'll check that out. I've got one or two guys I know. I'll check it out.
Okay,
so,
that's long.
So it's a small thing, but I hope that they've thought it through thoroughly.
Okay, that's law 1, the field of play. Law 3, the players. The use of additional permanent concussion substitutions is now available to competitions. And the next part is each captain or each team must have a captain who wears an identifying armband. So the first one there, are they now going to allow concussion substitutions? In other words, a player goes off and a player can come on, like in rugby, to replace him.
I mean that's how it's expected to work.
Yeah.
The reality is that the competition has to agree its introduction. Yeah. And then I think seek approval from the FA. Yeah. So I think that seems to me to be a gimme. I must say that our league, the Northern Counties East League, of which I'm president, this is one of the subjects we'll be discussing this week, because I'm going to promote the idea that, you know, the ultimate thing is, if a player is suffering from any form of concussion, if it's even a light knock, then it should be taken out of the game. There shouldn't be any risk to that individual's health long term. And when you look at players who I've refereed over the years, and you probably have refereed the same players, we're suddenly seeing them passing away with the likes of dementia and other sorts of probably brain-connected diseases through heading the ball. Now, there's a lot going on around that that particular subject, which has promoted the idea of concussion subs.
And the big one was, of course, Jeff Astle way back then, wasn't it?
Yes.
He went to West Brom and got...
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got Nobby Stiles, another one, you know, and I think it's quite sad that those sort of renowned players have sadly passed because of that brain damage that they alleged to have suffered. And I use that sparingly because of potential legal cases that are in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Each team must have a captain who wears an identifying armband, but that's happening anyway.
Yeah, I think this is again another clarification. It brings it up to date, doesn't it? Identify the captain. One of the reasons behind this is clearly with them now promoting the idea of the game and only the captain speaking to the players, to the referee, they're ensuring that an armband is easily identified.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes...
As long as it doesn't have any political connotations or writings on it.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. It's not necessarily working that well. It is in some instances, but it's not in other instances where players are still crowding around the referee. Yeah,
well, I mean, I was rather surprised and disappointed that the Premier League have not adopted this. So it's still the same as last season.
So just for clarification,
surrounding the referee and the referee having to either cower back as they have been doing or step forward and caution. I mean, what I think one or two referees ought to do is caution the four that's surrounding them.
Yeah. So it's really up again, is it not, up to each individual league in each country to say yay or nay?
Yeah.
So it's not an IFAB or a FIFA directive to say you must do it. No. Okay. It's a good idea because it would stop.
I think it worked extremely well in the Euros.
Yes, it did. Absolutely. Yeah. The players' equipment, a clarification that players are responsible for the size and suitability of their shin guards. Eh?
Yeah.
My goodness. So the
players... I'll tell you why.
5 centimeters or, you know.
Yeah. I think there's legal connotations here. Who is responsible for the safety of the player? And I think rather than saying, just a minute, the referee needs to abide by, or the law doesn't actually protect as much as it should do, let's put it on the player. Let me tell you that the club that I'm president, Penistone Church FC, we had a young player, sustain a broken leg, tib and fib. So it was a serious blow.
Tib and fib. Wow.
Yeah. He went on the field of play with a reasonably sized shin pad, and then decided somewhere in the game to, presumably at halftime, to change it. And if I tell you that the shin pad was about that size, 2 inches, the result was that our club secretary, Dave Hampshire, and the chairman, Ian Richardson, put an immediate ban, because we operate with 30 teams. We decided this aspect of law is a nonsense, and we've said that unless they give substantial protection, we're not going to allow our players to participate in the game. So that's a club responsibility. We've taken it, and we're saying that these mini pads that the players wear like Jack Grealish and a few others, is not acceptable. So we've come down on it. I hope other clubs will follow suit. I mean, we had the television and the radio attend our game ground and interview our secretary and president, chairman, to get the message across. Yeah. And we've been supported substantially across the country.
And from what I can remember, the old system was that the only stipulation was that the shin pads had to be covered by the sock.
Yep. Yeah.
And they were so low down that they were particularly, and we have to mention, and it's nothing against the guy, but Jack Grealish, the
Yeah.
shin pad hardly comes halfway up his shin.
Oh, yeah. And, you
Line with
know,
the law because the shin pad is covered by the sock.
yeah, exactly. But now they're actually saying this is it. I mean, it seems to me that the laws of the game are shifting to suit the players.
Yeah, very much so.
And not actually take into account the need to be protected and, you know, do things in a sensible manner. But hey, that's the IFAB.
You know, and it's a bit of a rhetorical question, but why are they doing this? Why don't they leave the laws as they are? Others would say, well, if the player doesn't want to wear shin pads, that's his problem. But then the referee is responsible for the safety of the players.
Yeah.
That includes their equipment to make sure it's not going to be harmful to themselves or to others. There's one here that says reference to gloves to be included under other equipment. I mean, these are pedantic.
Yeah.
Why are they wasting time? A reference to tracksuit bottoms for goalkeepers to be removed from, quote, compulsory equipment and included under other equipment. Why is clarification needed on that? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, we get common sense going out the window.
Oh my God.
I mean, we, you know, when we're involved in UEFA games and no doubt the World Cup, the thing that is inspected prior to the game are the referee gloves. They're inspected on the basis of advertising.
Yeah.
And often the goalkeepers get extra money, I think, for various brands that they have on the glove. And those invariably are wiped out.
Yeah.
They have to be taped over.
I know, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Law 12, clarification that non-deliberate, this is an interesting one. Clarification that non-deliberate, who decides non-deliberate? Again, very subjective, I guess it's the referee. That non-deliberate handball offences for which penalties are awarded are to be sanctioned in the same way as fouls, which are an attempt to play the ball or a challenge for the ball. Clarification that non-deliberate. What's a non-deliberate handball offence for which penalties are awarded are to be sanctioned in the same way as fouls, which are an attempt to play the ball or a challenge for the ball?
You know, even that statement has had to be clarified with the words, when an outfield player denies the opposing team a goal or an obvious goal-scoring opportunity by deliberately handling the ball and a penalty kick is awarded, the player will be sent off. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I get the impression more and more that people are sitting around making these law amendments and changes are people who have not refereed the game. Complication. No wonder some of our referees are running around scratching their head.
You know, in situations like this, I just find my own personal opinion is that they are trying to justify their positions by coming up with these things instead of leaving well enough alone. The laws, my goodness, Keith, since yours and my time, have changed so much. And it's really hard to identify what is a foul, what's not a foul, what's handball, what's not handball, etc., etc., etc. When the old way, like even an offside used to be one of the shortest and simplest laws, and with the less writing, probably in comparison to law 2 on the ball, was the less, I mean, it only took up a few lines offside, as well as where the ball did, the circumference and the weight and the pressure and so on and so on. Now, the ball is still the same, but my God, you could write a whole chapter on offsides and what is offside and what's not offside.
Yeah. I mean, the simplicity of that is if it's an accidental handball offence, see, clarification that non-deliberate handball offences, well, it's not an offence, is it? A non-deliberate handball is not an offence.
No, absolutely it's not. So for which penalty? So how can you award a penalty for a non-deliberate handball? I mean, if it's non-deliberate, then it's not a handball. If it hits the guy's hand and he's pulling it away, then the old thing was the movement of the hand or arm towards the ball, not the ball towards the hand. So if he's pulling his hand away and the ball hits him, that's surely non-deliberate.
I just think sometimes I don't know whether they consider the English language, but that to me is a bit of a nonsense. Now we get to the penalty kick.
Contradiction. Yeah.
Right. So simple thing here. You think what they've done is you and I, if you had encroachment at a penalty kick, right? You know what sanction to apply.
Of course.
But what they're now saying is the guy literally can encroach into the penalty area and will only be penalised if it impacts, right, on other players. Just like they're saying that the same philosophy as the goalkeeper encroachment. Only punish it when it's meaningful. And they're saying that, we'll only punish encroachment now if it impacts on the goalkeeper or another player.
The old way with the penalty kick, there was the penalty mark, which was 9 inches circumference. You remember that? And the ball had to be placed in the middle. Now the ball, with the place where the ball touches the line, can be actually on the line closest to the goal. So he's not actually 12 yards. He might be 11 yards and 11 inches.
I mean, this is like the corner kick situation.
Absolutely the same.
They've evolved the law and made it more complex in its practical application.
Yeah.
So now you get fans screaming it's outside the area, and the assistant referee can't judge whether it's in contact with the quadrant.
Yeah.
He's standing up. He's not looking vertically down over the, angles.
I've seen them come close and almost come out of the field.
Let me tell you, I think that with the penalty kick, I think we're going to see, particularly when the penalty kick from the mark, where there is a lot of gamesmanship, goalkeeper comes up, has a feel of the ball, all those sorts of things.
Yeah.
I think they're making the practical application of the law and refereeing more difficult with these so-called clarifications. Because what they're doing is they've amended the law and created questions, and they're trying to now answer the questions with what they consider to be further clarifications.
Trying to clarify the clarification of the previous clarification.
Look, I think that when we look at the denial of an obvious goal-scoring opportunity, we know that if it's outside the area and the foul meets the criteria of direction towards goal, distance from play, from the goal line, and a foul committed, and then it goes into the box and they decide that's triple jeopardy. So if a goalkeeper or a defender is making an actual play for the ball, then it's a penalty kick and a yellow card. And it seems to me now that if logically you say it's a deliberate handball, it gets sent off. If it's an accidental ball, well, for me, he's not committed an offence.
Yeah. I don't know.
And the only thing is, if he accidentally handles the ball and slams it into the back of the net, it's not a goal.
I know. Well, remember last week with the elbow and did the ball hit the top of the arm or the bottom of the arm? We had that. Oh, by the way, there was midweek clarification on the Jack Grealish situation, and an apology from the PGMOL for getting it wrong. What was that one on?
Yeah, that was when there was a bit of a clash in the corner area in the Arsenal-Bournemouth game.
Yeah.
And if you remember, the defender rolled the ball towards the player, the Arsenal player, who flipped it out of play.
Yeah.
And the referee decided, I'm getting involved. I'm giving you a red card. My answer, if you remember, was, has he committed an offence? Because has he delayed the restart? Because the ball's not static. The defending player's not 10 yards away. And he'd forgotten the law. And he shouldn't have been sent off.
Oh, that was Declan Rice, was it?
Declan Rice.
Declan Rice, yeah, I remember. So was that red card now withdrawn?
Oh, no, it can't be. It's 2 yellows.
Well, can the second yellow not be withdrawn?
No.
That caused the red card.
No.
But they've apologized, so they've admitted they were
No
wrong.
matter. Yeah, I mean, look, even when I was the boss of the PGMOL, I had a referee. I'll not mention him. I don't want to embarrass him.
Sure.
But he'd issued a yellow card to a player that meant a suspension. And he came in and said, boss, I've had a look at the video. On the day, I thought I got it right. But I've now looked at the video and I'm wrong. I want to rescind the yellow card. How do I go about doing that? And I go, well, let me contact the FA. And I contacted the FA and said, no, there's no appeal. He can't rescind the yellow card. That was it. End of matter. Player was suspended.
So if there was an appeal, could they rescind it?
They can't rescind a yellow card. They cannot appeal. They're not in England. You're not allowed to appeal a yellow card, either 1 or 2.
Okay. Oh God, they don't make life easy. Just on the last one, guidelines for temporary dismissals in brackets sin bins.
Yeah.
Guidelines have been revised, including most notably to specify that a temporarily dismissed player can return to the field of play only during a stoppage.
Yeah.
And to simplify System B.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think one of the things that I've noticed with that is, and this is not really laws of the game, but effectively now, if you get, let's say you have a player who's been dismissed for a yellow card for dissent. By that I mean he's been sent to the sin bin.
Yeah.
He receives a yellow card and a sin bin.
Yeah.
And if on the way he has a go at the referee on
yeah.
a second occasion, he gets a second yellow and now he's dismissed. Red.
Yeah. Okay.
Got to clarify that.
Okay. Similar to a guy being substituted. And that's why the sub coming on cannot come on the field until the other guy's gone off, because the guy on the way off might commit a red card offense.
Correct.
Therefore, he gets a red card, and the sub that's coming on cannot then come on unless another player comes off. Yeah. Wow, Keith, that took up the whole job. But I'm glad we went through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm noticing on the screen the amount of people that are looking and checking, and they're obviously very, very interested. And if you have any more comments to make, please do so. And if we have to come back to it next week, you guys are obviously interested, and I appreciate your interest in it. And it's good that you're taking the interest in it, because the laws, even to Keith and I, sometimes can be a bit of an ask, because even we can't work it out ourselves. Keith, time has crept up on us again.
Yep.
Many, many thanks for coming on the show. We'll do it all again next Monday. And thank you out there for watching. And I hope you can tune in again next Monday night, 8 p.m. Until then, good night and God bless you all. Thank you, Keith.
Good night.